Ever stop and think about this? In a world that's bursting with color, why is our natural hair so limited? We're about to get to the bottom of a really fascinating biological mystery. Why don't humans have blue hair? I mean, seriously, the animal kingdom is a literal rainbow. You've got brilliant parrots, iridescent butterflies, all sorts of tropical fish. So why are we stuck with such a narrow palette for our own hair? Well, it turns out this isn't an accident at all. Our whole natural hair spectrum, from the deepest black and richest brown to fiery red and bright blonde, is really a story about some very strict biological limits, and we're going to break down exactly what those limits are. Okay, let's start with the first major clue in this whole mystery. We'll call it the biochemical culprit. Turns out it all comes down to the fact that we have one and only one type of pigment. And here it is, melanin. This is the one and only class of pigments that determines every single natural human hair color. What's wild is that all of it is made from just one single building block, an amino acid called L-tyrosine. That one starting point, that's our first big constraint. Now, this melanin basically comes in two flavors. First, you've got eumelanin. That's the dark pigment. It makes all the black and brown shades. And, this is super important, its main job is to be a powerful shield against UV sunlight. Then you've got pheomelanin, the light pigment. It has sulfur in it, which is what creates those red and yellow tones, but it's a much weaker UV shield. So here's the absolute key takeaway. Every single natural hair color you've ever seen on a person is just a different recipe mixing these two ingredients. That's it. How much of each you have and how it's all spread out creates the entire palette we see. It's that simple. And, well, that limited. Okay, so we know what makes the color. But how does our body actually decide on the recipe for that mix? Well, that brings us to our genetic on-off switch. The big decision maker is this one gene called MC1R. The best way to think of it is as the master switch on our pigment-making cells. This single gene is the one that tells those cells which type of melanin to crank out, the dark kind or the light kind. So here's how it works for darker hair. When that MC1R switch is activated, when it's flipped to on, it sends a signal to the cell's little factory saying, hey, prioritize making you melanin. The result? You get black or brown hair. But what happens if that switch is inactive or flipped to off? Well, the factory just kind of defaults to its other plan. It goes, okay, no dark signal, guess we'll make pheomelanin instead. And that's how we end up with red or blonde hair. It's literally the default pathway. Right. So we've got the what, melanin, and the how, the MC1R gene. But that leads to the most important question of all, doesn't it? The why. Why the system? The answer is a pretty epic story of sun and survival. And this gets right to the heart of it. The main reason our hair color evolved the way it did had nothing to do with looks. It was all about photoprotection. That's just a fancy word for protection from the sun. Survival, plain and simple, was the name of the game. Just think about it. For our earliest ancestors evolving in equatorial Africa, having dark hair packed with that protective eumelanin wasn't a style choice. It was a non-negotiable shield. It was absolutely essential for protecting their scalp and brain from brutal UV radiation. And you can actually see this story of adaptation play out across the globe. It all started in equatorial Africa, where that intense sun favored dark hair. But then, maybe 50,000 years ago, humans started migrating out to places with way less sunlight. Suddenly, in places like Northern Europe, the pressure completely shifted. Lighter hair and skin actually became an advantage because it helped the body produce crucial vitamin D in low-light conditions. And this really shows you a key principle of how evolution works. It's a thrifty engineer. It's not going to invent a whole new pigment system from scratch if it doesn't have to. It just tweaked the system it already had, turning the dial down on melanin production or changing the recipe. It's almost always easier to modify what's already there. Okay, this all brings us to the final piece of the puzzle, the case of the missing colors. If evolution is so clever, why couldn't our thrifty engineer just borrow some of those brilliant blues and greens we see all over the place in nature? Well, the reason is that nature actually makes color in two fundamentally different ways. The first is pigment color. That's color from chemicals, from dyes that absorb light. That's our melanin. But the second, which creates some of the most jaw-dropping colors, is called structural color. And this isn't a dye at all. It's a trick of physics. It's caused by microscopic structures that bend and scatter light, like on a blue butterfly's wing. So first off, why can't we just use other pigments, like the ones that make a flamingo pink? Well, there are a few huge roadblocks. One, our bodies just can't process them and stick them in our hair. It's metabolic incompatibility. Two, a lot of them would actually be toxic to us. And three, it would just be way too expensive for our bodies, energetically speaking, taking away resources from things that are way more important for survival. Okay, fine, so pigments are out. What about structural color? That cool trick of the light that makes a peacock feather shimmer? No dice there either. See, that effect requires an incredibly complex microscopic architecture. We're talking tiny air gaps and super precise layers, all designed to scatter light in a specific way. Our hair? It's just a simple, solid cylinder. It has none of that intricate machinery. And there it is. That's our final answer. Our biology is basically locked in a box, sealed by two inescapable factors: incompatible chemistry on one side and incompatible physics on the other. We can't make the dyes, and we can't build the microscopic light-bending structures. So it seems like natural evolution slammed the door on blue hair for some very, very good reasons. But that leaves us with one last really fascinating question to think about. With all the powerful new tools of biotechnology, like gene editing, will we one day find a way to open that door ourselves?